Gina and Hattie and Huckleberry and whoever else pops in. Welcome back to my channel. It's the Library Mouse, and I'm here today to do a twofold video. One is a May Wrap-Up and the other is a June TBR. Putting them together because May was mighty short. She thinks she's a cat. Hey. May was mighty short. I did not get done all of the books that I wanted to. You know, my goal is 5 books a month, and I did not make it. So I thought that I would share, though, the 3 books that I did finish in the month of May. So the very first book that I finished was The Tattooed Girl by Joyce Carol Oates. And I originally read it because one of the tags that I did was to, they asked the question about a book that takes place where you live. And I honestly had no idea. So I looked it up and I saw The Tattooed Girl and it sounded intriguing. So I decided to read it. Now, it was at the beginning of May, but basically it's supposed to take place in Rochester, New York, and it is about a very almost reclusive, but not really, a professor, youngish in his 30s, that lives alone. He has written a book which made him very famous, and he needs a live-in assistant, or he needs some kind of assistant because he has been diagnosed with some kind of nerve disorder. He thinks it might be MS. You're never really told for sure what his issue is. He is Jewish, and he decides to hire this girl, the tattooed girl named Alma, from just meeting her in a bookstore. Now, unbeknownst to him, Alma is hooked up with this guy. He's actually a waiter at a restaurant that the professor goes to all of the time. And anti-Semitism runs very strong between the two of them. And there are some disturbing scenes. This relationship that Alma is in is very abusive. And she is abused by her boyfriend and also pimped out by him. So he doesn't like it very much when she starts to work for this Jewish professor. And basically it's a book about how the two of them come to know each other and how they come to regard each other. It's a disturbing book. It really is. I kept reading it. When I was done, I didn't know if I really liked it or not. Would I recommend someone reading it? Yeah, I think it's a good book. I think it makes you think. But like I said, there are disturbing incidences in the book. And the ending overall is not satisfying. The ending for me, I got done reading it and I was disappointed. So that was the first book that I finished up, just because it took place in Rochester and I really wanted to read something by Joyce Carol Oates because, to be honest, I don't think I ever have. So that was book number 1. Okay, the second book that I finished up was another book by Moriarty, and this book is called Truly, Madly Guilty. Another like suburban thriller, suspense thriller, kind of. It wants to be a thriller, but what you come to find out wasn't really all that thrilling. or exciting as you think it's going to be based on the lead up. Let's put it that way. So basically it focuses on these couples, Sam and Clementine. Clementine is a cellist, and they have a couple little girls. And then we have Erica and her husband, Oliver. Do not have children, pretty much a career couple. Erica and Clementine are good friends. Then you have the neighbors, Tiffany and Vid. Vid is like very stereotypical Italian. Tiffany is a former dancer, and they all come together one afternoon at a barbecue, and something happens at the barbecue. Now, throughout the book, you're led to wonder what actually happened at the barbecue. How big of a deal was it? Who did it? Who's responsible? How is this going to affect everybody? And so throughout the book, you get little bits and pieces each chapter, like that kind of adds to it. They go back and forth between present time and the day of the barbecue. It's a good book. I can't say that it was, I mean, it wasn't exciting, but I kept reading it. It's a well-written book. It really makes you want to find out what happened. There's so many times that you think you know what happened, or you're led to believe one thing and it's actually something else. So I love Leanne Moriarty too. So yeah, this is a very good book. Truly, madly guilty. So this was book number 2 that I read. Okay, so the third book that I read is another book by Lisa Scottoline, and it is called One Perfect Lie. Also a suburban thriller. So basically it centers around this man named Chris Brennan who comes into town, and he sounds like the perfect man, perfect guy. He applies for and gets a job as a teacher and a baseball coach. And as you're reading the book, he is trying to recruit the most, I guess, needy, people-pleasing kind of boy from the baseball team. He's looking for one boy that he can kind of convince to do something that needs to be done. And you're wondering, what is this all about? And you really don't like the guy in the beginning of the book. And so it centers on him and his life and what's going on with him, always with questions as to what is it this guy is actually doing? What does he need this boy for? And it always sounded very negative. And then the book also focuses on 3 boys on his baseball team that he's kind of trying to choose between, and their moms and how they all intertwine, as well as this other boy who's a little wealthier. This book had many surprises, which I like in a thriller. A lot of that I didn't see coming, some of it that I did. I mean, there were hints dropped along the way. I mean, I think you're supposed to figure some of it out. It was a very good book. The one thing that I did not like about the book, after being, you know, a realistic thriller that you could actually see happening, the end, not realistic. I just couldn't see it happening. Would it be a great movie, you know, with a stuntman in it? yeah. But as far as how realistic the rest of the book was, for the ending to be the way it was, or the climax, I should say, not the ending, the climax was very unrealistic. And so it kind of took the book down a notch in my eyes. I wish that she had found a climax just as exciting, but more realistic. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5. But if you like suburban thrillers, there's some violence, not a whole lot, but there was some violence, suicide, yeah. If those things don't upset you, it would be a really good book to read. I recommend it, but just note beforehand that the climax may be disappointing. I don't know, you might think that it's perfectly okay, but I just thought it was not something I could picture actually happening. So that was my May wrap-up, 4s and 5s. No, I think I gave The Tattooed Girl 3. Truly Madly Guilty, I did like that book. I gave it a 5. And Lisa Scottoline book, One Perfect Lie, I gave a 4. So now we are on to my June TBR. They're so cute. They're so cute. I could never live in a house without a cat. Anyway, on to the TBR. Now, to be perfectly fair, it's the first week of June. I finished 2 books already. I finished both of my library books. So, let's take a look at this one. Another Lisa Scottoline book. It is called Someone Knows. So let me really just kind of summarize the book jacket without giving too much away. Allie Garvey is heading home to the funeral of a childhood friend. She is not only grief-stricken, she's full of dread, because going home means seeing the other 2 people with whom she shares an unbearable secret. 20 years earlier, a horrific incident shattered the lives of 5 teenagers, including Allie. They played a dangerous prank that went tragically wrong. The teenagers never told anyone, believing that getting caught would be the worst thing that would happen. But time has taught Allie otherwise. Not getting caught was far worse. The dark secret has eaten away at her, distancing her from everyone she loves, including her husband. Because she wasn't punished by the law, Allie has punished herself, and it's a life sentence. She did a really good job developing the characters in this book. It's one of those books, though, that you get the viewpoint of everybody, not just Allie. So sometimes I have a hard time getting to really know the character, but good thriller, much more realistic climax. It was good. It was good. Obviously some violence. And you know the one thing about thrillers like this that I have realized, that especially when they share the viewpoint of many different characters, I don't get invested in any character. So if something happens to them, I don't really feel sad. And generally, you know, if something happens to a character, I want to feel sad, like, oh, I can't believe that happened to that character. And I have to say that I don't feel that way with the characters in here. But this was a June read. I finished another book too. So I finished Nancy Thayer, The Island House. This book, so basically it centers on this girl named Courtney, and she is best friends with Robin, and Robin's family owns a house on Nantucket, and every summer Courtney goes to spend the summer with her friend Robin. Robin has a big family, many siblings. All the siblings bring friends. There's some romance with Robin, with Courtney, with a brother. So it's how their lives entwine one summer romantically with other people on the island, people off the island, making decisions about what you want to do with the rest of your life and who you want to be with, the logical person, the friend. What are you willing to give up in order to be with the person that you think is the one for you? It was okay. It was a good book that I would sit by the pool and read. It's not really heavy. It's light reading for sure. Sometimes, like the last third, or the last quarter of it was kind of drawn out. It could have been a lot shorter, I guess. I mean, it's not really even that big of a book, but I mean, it was still good. I give it a 3. It's a nice book for the summer. And if you like Nantucket and you picture yourself living there. So this was 2 books that I finished for June. What am I going to be reading? So I have a lot of choices here. So obviously I am still working on The Wild Soul Woman. And the thing with this book is it takes a while because it is a book where you're supposed to do journaling and meditations and exploring. So right now I am reading about the Forest Woman. So the first one was Desert Woman, and now I'm on the Forest Woman. But like for some of this is the Forest Woman. And they talk about what she is, what she's like, dreams and being deeply rooted. They have little exercises for you to do. For example, here's a integration lesson. So you're supposed to plant your feet firmly on the ground, kind of like grounding yourself, closing your eyes, tuning outwards and then inwards. You're supposed to really pay attention to what are you sensing, what are your instincts telling you, what do you feel and where do you feel it. When you're all done, you're supposed to go back and journal about it. So this book is not just a quick read if you do the things, that she wants you to do. But it's interesting. This will probably just be a book review on its own. I want to read this. This is called The Plum Tree. It's written by Ellen Marie Wiseman. This is historical fiction. I figured it's time to go back to some historical fiction again. So basically it's Christine Boltz is 17 years old. She lives in a small German village. So she works for this family, a wealthy Jewish family, and she kind of falls in love with their son, Isaac. But in the fall of 1938, Germany is changing under Hitler's regime. Anti-Jewish posters are everywhere, and a new law forbids Christine from returning to her job and from having any relationship, obviously, with Isaac. It says in the months and years that follow, Christine will confront the Gestapo's wrath and the horrors of Dachau, desperate to be with the man she loves, to survive, and finally to speak out. She also wrote the book, which I really, really enjoyed, called The Orphan Collector. And so I think that this will be a really good book. Book that I want to read on my TBR is called Surviving Savannah. And this is written by Patty Callahan. I've read other Patty Callahan books that I have enjoyed. So it says, a luxury steamship sank in 1838 with Savannah's elite on board. Their fates were forgotten until the wreck was found 180 years later. and now their stories are finally being told in this spellbinding novel. When Savannah history professor Everly Winthrop is asked to curate a museum collection focused on these newly discovered artifacts from the steamship Pulaski, she's hesitant. She is still healing from the death of her best friend. She's struggling to regain her sense of adventure, but she can't resist this opportunity to, kind of delve into the mysteries of what happened the night that this steamboat sank. So her research leads to the extraordinary stories of two aristocratic women from a family that boarded the Pulaski together, a known survivor, Augusta Longstreet, and her niece Lily Forsythe, who was never found. So Lily was a mother struggling in a marriage she had thought would lead to a happy life, while Augusta, who was unmarried and childless, battled with society's expectations. When the ship exploded, each woman faced difficult and heartbreaking decisions. Sounds good. So I'm going to read this book. And then I have this book. This is called The Girls with No Names by Serena Burdick. I've never read anything by her. But do you see this cover? These kind of books are the books I wind up choosing. And I know, don't judge a book by its cover, right? But I love book covers that look like this. They attract my attention immediately. So this is growing up in New York City in 1910s. Luella and Effie realize that even as wealthy young women, their freedom comes with limits. But when the sisters discover a shocking secret about their father, Luella, the older sister, becomes emboldened to do as she pleases. Her rebellion comes with consequences, and one morning, Luella is mysteriously gone. So Effie suspects that her father has sent Luella to the House of Mercy and hatches a plan to get herself committed to save her sister, because, it takes place back in the day when if men didn't like what women had to say or think or do, they could just be committed to a mental institution. But she makes a miscalculation, and with no one to believe her story, Effie's own escape seems impossible until she can trust a girl named Mabel. So they must rely on their friendship to survive. And this explores the historical House of Mercy. I want to look up House of Mercy. I'm going to share what that is. Okay, so I have just looked it up. So the House of Mercy was in Inwood Hill Park. It was in New York, and it was for women who were destitute, who were placed there by the city magistrates, or who were committed there by their family members, or who signed themselves in. And basically, it sounds like from, it was supposed to be this idyllic, beautiful place. Lots of descriptions on how lovely the building is. But the inmates were gagged, beaten, straitjacketed. Their heads were shaved for punishment. They were given bread and water. They were put in isolation cells. Pretty much, just what you picture, like late 1800, early 1900 asylum. And every horror you probably have heard of them, it sounds like that's what actually went on at this House of Mercy. So this sounds really, really good. I might read this next. It just sounds like something that would interest me. Oops. It might help to turn it right side up, right? Well, anyway, it's The Girls with No Names by Serena Burdick. So I have that book to read. So those are the books that are on my TBR for June. I really think I'll be able to make 5 easily. I spend a lot of time if I'm in my pool floating around reading. And reading magazines. That's why I save them. I like to read them in the pool because it doesn't really matter if they get wet. So anyway, I hope everybody has a great start to June. And thanks for stopping by. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. I love reading everyone's comments and getting to know who watches my videos. So anyway, happy reading, everybody.